I'm Healy, the Healy Report. I'll put this also on video with text, speech to text and everything. Saturday the 31st of May, and I see in the fake news or the propaganda media, they're very disappointed apparently that people aren't uptaking the mRNA injection. Now, this is insane. After all the damage that's been done, these bureaucrats are pushing the same stupid thing. Now, these guys should be put in jail for it, actually, at the end of the day. I just can't believe when I look at the advertising. However, people are really gun shy of it now because they know they've been gaslit for the last 3 to 4 years. But, you know, talk about the definition of insanity is doing the same stupid thing over again, expecting a different result. And, you know, these bureaucrats should be held accountable, not only accountable, some of these health bureaucrats should be actually put in jail over it because of the malfeasance and the damage that's been caused and the lies that have been said. Now, if you go on to riseup.australiabrisbane.com, you'll see I've done, you know, I did this, you know, when Dr Peter McCullough originally analysed this. It's a PDF file, you can download it, nothing's changed, except the messages just got out there more clearly, that's all. But as you'll see on the lead page for Rise Up Australia, you'll see I've got written there the mRNA experiment, the temporal jab deaths. In other words, people that got the mRNA injection and the boosters and all the rest of it, and within a very short period of time, death occurred. Now, the rationale, the medical rationale behind that is, of course, that if you die or someone dies, they got to look back and say, well, you know, what's the causation of death? Now, what happened in the rollout of the mRNA experimental jab is that the temporal relationship of deaths either on the day or shortly afterwards, in other words, in 5 days afterwards, they had the jab. Now, my father was a victim of that. In 5 days, he was dead, hemorrhaged to death after getting the Pfizer jab, which shouldn't have been done. Anyway, I can testify to that as a fact. But Dr Peter McCullough is originally, in his original analysis, 86% of people that had the jab and then died within 5 days. Now, when that happens, there's a medical temporal or time relationship between the jab and death and time. Now, the thing is, when you have a look at the chart, it's on the face page of the website, riseup.australiabrisbane.com, you'll see that it's been taken off the American VAERS, I think, system where they supposedly report adverse events. And when the COVID jab or the experimental injection got rolled out, the adverse events immediately after the jab went through the roof. Never in history before has there been so many deaths after an injection. Now, the bureaucrats claim there's no causation, that you can't find causal effects and all that. Well, that's just a whole crock of BS, and they've been gaslighting, they've been covering up, they've been lying all the way. As a matter of fact, I think Senator Malcolm Roberts and Senator Gerard Rennick have pointed out that they're trying to, or actually destroying data at the in Brisbane, which has recorded the results, blood test results and all that, and they're scheduling to destroy that evidence. You know, it's the biggest cover-up of the century. I mean, thalidomide had nothing on what they're doing with the COVID experiment. Now, my advice, I'm just going to read a little bit of this, but my advice is to get onto the Substack of Dr. Philip Altman. Now, Dr. Philip Altman used to advise the TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Association, as a, I think he's a biochemist, and he's got a whole lot of different qualifications. But one thing, I've followed his Substack, and he is really on the button. I will load some of this onto my website, but I'll just, this last one that he put out, and you get his email, sign up and you'll get his email. And this one's on May the 28th, just as they're starting to advertise. No, people aren't taken up. There's not a great deal of take up with the COVID shot, and there's a strain of COVID out again. Get stuffed. That's what I can say to the lot of you criminal malfeasance people who are trying to push an experimental drug again without the scientific evidence to back it up that it's safe and it's not effective. You guys should be jailed. That's what I feel. And it will happen. It will happen. It's starting to happen in the US. Pfizer's getting sued. Now, just a little interesting point here. Remember, the TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Association of Australia, is funded by Pfizer. 90% of its funding comes from Pfizer, Big Pharma, what have you. And old Skerritt, that was lying through his teeth all the way through Senate estimates, especially being grilled by Senator Malcolm Roberts and Senator Gerard Rennick especially, lying all the way through. Now, guess what? He's got a job with Pfizer. So, we have a corrupt medical associations. We have a corrupt TGA and all those, APRA and all, just rotten to the core, and that really has to be completely dissolved and rebuilt with a full accountability. And especially anything that they push commercially should have the proper testing behind it, which they haven't. Especially the mRNA experiment. It's just ruined the lives of so many people, and it's the biggest cover-up since thalidomide. Thalidomide, if you recall back then, it was all safe and effective. My mother, I'm 70 this year, born in 1955. My mother, the doctor tried to get my mother on thalidomide, and deep down inside she said no. And thank God she didn't have anything to do with it. Spiritually, you should be able to figure it out. Some people can sense it in their spirit that this is not right. Others, regarding the whole mRNA thing, they knew it was not right. The banning of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these characters should be in jail. And the first one that should be in jail is Dictator Dan down in Melbourne. It's a scumbag. But anyway, the golf clubs don't accept him down there, so that's a start anyhow. Now, Dr. Altman just, he says the tricks used to minimise the COVID shot death count. Now, you can read through it yourself. I'll put it onto my website, but I'll just go through some of the highlights here. Just one moment, I'll go through it. I've got it on the screen here. When a suspected adverse event is reported to the TGA, it should be thoroughly evaluated to determine, using a number of criteria, probably that the reported adverse event was caused by a drug in question. So how does TGA turn? They had 30,000 reports. How do they turn 30,000 reports of death, which they received, into 14? I remember Skerritt saying, yes, I've only got 14 actual deaths, that's very minimal, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is they had 30,000 reports. Now, various doctors have used the Freedom of Information data to try and fathom through how they covered it up. The data shows that there were 35 deaths on the day of injection. This is a review by Dr. Madry's Substack on the 13th of January. The data shows that there were 35 deaths on the day of injection and 184 within 3 days of injection. This temporal relationship is one of the strongest pieces of evidence under the Bradford Hill criteria. Now that's the criteria, the medical criteria that Dr. Peter McCullough uses, and from memory, there were literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of doctors that signed up to that particular Bradford-Hill criteria to form a conclusion that the drug caused the death and the death did not occur by chance. It is very easy for the TGA and other regulatory agencies, this is Dr. Philip Altman speaking, who used to advise the TGA on, I think they call it pharmacovigilance or something, but anyway, it's the guidance of what is, the safety guidance for various drugs, of which TGA just threw the rule book out the door regarding the COVID injections, the mRNA injections. It is very easy for TGA and other regulatory agencies to grossly underestimate the number of COVID vaccine deaths. One of the easiest way is not to follow up that report, a death or serious adverse event. If you don't look, you won't find it. Easy. It's easy, It is breathtaking that 266 reported deaths had no information on the time of death in relation to the injection, and this was not followed up. I also note that such an incompetent approach to this important function of the TGA is consistent with the reluctance of authorities to direct autopsies to be performed in case of suspected vaccine-caused deaths. Another trick, which was cleverly established by Big Pharma in the initial clinical trials of COVID vaccines, was to ignore deaths and serious injury that occurred before the full antibody response following injection. And he attaches another report of the analysis of the therapeutic goods and what have you there. So, look, you can read that. I'll actually copy and put it onto a PDF file. But the bottom line is this. They had the report, I think, as I said there originally, was like, you better get it right, 30,000 reports to the TGA of adverse events and or deaths. None of it was followed up. They concluded it was only 14 that we could correlate. And Temporal, I can remember Skerritt saying this when Senator Rennick grilled him. There's no temporal relationship between the jab and people's deaths. Well, the statistics say otherwise. Dr Peter McCullough, you'll go onto the lead page of my website, riseupaustraliabrisbane.com, and you'll see he's got a full video explanation, which I've got on the front page there, just above the road cartoonist Ben Garrison. 73.9% post-COVID deaths were linked to the vax, temporally linked. In other words, you're a doctor and someone dies and you go, I wonder what caused the death. Let's have a look at what happened to that person medically. Oh, he got an injection a couple of days before he died, 5 days. Well, could that be the reason that he got the adverse event? Could it be the reason for the death? They just dropped all that information. They just threw out the door. They didn't follow it up. They didn't go through and do any autopsies. So the reality was it was a massive cover-up. So just go on to riseupaustraliabrisbane.com and you'll see that information there. You'll see the Dr McCullough's downloaded PDF file that you can actually read the rationale from properly qualified doctors. Now, Dr McCullough has actually formed his own foundation, and the reason is he had to step away from the current mentality and then basically head his own research institution, which, you know, I don't know, I think he's written something like 300 or so peer-reviewed articles as one of the world's leading cardiologists, and he's the world's leading authority on analysing the COVID shots and everything like that. So anyway, that's Graham Healy for Saturday's broadcast. And why I'm concerned about, a little bit concerned, is you're seeing a repeat of the gaslighting and the the hype on lamestream media, but they will not get any traction this time because, thank God, people have woken up, and a lot of people have been injured and hurt from the last run out of the experimental drug, and no way are we going to cop it this time. Okay, Graham Healy over and out. Have a great day, and don't let them gaslight you again, and don't fall into the trap. They've got a whole lot of stock sitting there. You know, when Morrison rolled out all the mRNA injections, they bought, I don't know how many billions of dollars, millions of dollars, well, could be billions of dollars, but definitely millions of dollars worth of stock sitting there waiting to be used. And that's why they're pushing it again. They get the media, the parrot, what I call the parrot lamestream media, to start pushing the narrative again, and don't fall into it in the name of Jesus. Okay, Graham Healy over and out. Have a great day.